IMEEC set to counter China's BRI and bridge the gap between global north and the global south. President Trump and PM Modi call it the greatest trade route in history. We decode how DRDO's Made in India Brahmos supersonic cruise missiles are commanding global attention in the world of cutting-edge defense technology. From the national women's football team to prominent actresses and now even critics, Bangladesh descends into total chaos amidst Dhaka's atrocities on women. And top voice on the show, former Tibetan Prime Minister Lobsang Sangye speaks to India and says the India-China relationship may undergo change under President Trump's policies towards Beijing.
Hello and welcome. You're watching a very special episode of India Sense with me, Gauri Dwivedi from the US. The big story continues to be and should be what is unfolding right now in Washington, D.C. between the US and India. Well, Prime Minister Modi and President Trump have met in their first meeting since Trump 2.0 began on 20th of January. Well, several important things have really been the big highlights of this meeting. Well, some would say that trade dominated, but the fact is that the bonhomie, the body language between the two leaders indicated exactly what Prime Minister Modi summed it up by saying that when India and the US come together, it's not 1 + 1. But which is not equal to 2, but it is 1 + 1, which is adding up to 11, which is exactly what the power of India and America's bilateral relationship is in terms of the possibilities it throws up for the world, whether it is in terms of engagement on political matters, whether it is in terms of engagement on trade matters, or whether it is in engagement in terms of technological partnerships. And not just that, even in the region, on asked about Bangladesh, President Trump's response is indicative of how the US-India relationship is set to evolve from here on. President Trump said that India is the stabilizing force in the region, agreeing and in fact remarking on just how important India's role could be in countering China in the region. It also in fact could be indicative of how India could play an important role in the Quad going forward. Till now, Quad has been largely a mechanism that's been about soft power issues, but could evolve into much more. But that's just one aspect of it. Trade being another aspect of a relationship that has multiple and many opportunities. The fact that Prime Minister Modi met Elon Musk, he met Vivek Ramaswamy, he met Tulsi Gabbard, all key and prominent figures in President Trump's administration. Vivek Ramaswamy is set to now is running for governorship in Ohio and could play a very important role in American politics, is indicative of the role that Indian and Indian diaspora are set to play in America. Trade may be an aspect of this relationship. It's unlikely to be the dominating aspect of this relationship. Yes, there could be some negotiations, but the meeting here today sets the stage for negotiations in a matter that are amenable to both sides and allow both India and America to move forward, keeping their other joint interests and objectives aligned.
MAGA plus MIGA तब बन जाता है मेगा पार्टनरशिप फॉर प्रॉस्पेरिटी। हम दोनों का मिलने का मतलब 1 + 1 2 नहीं, 1 और 1 11 होता है।
He's doing a great job in India. Everybody talks about it. He's doing a really fantastic job. A great leader.
मैं समझता हूं पूरी दुनिया में डील शब्द का कॉपीराइट एक ही व्यक्ति का है और उस व्यक्ति का नाम है ट्रम्प।
The other key story that we are taking up on India Sense today, well, it's a deep dive into a city whose significance stretches beyond borders, Marseille in France. As India and France forge much deeper ties going forward, the Mediterranean hub, that's Marseille, is poised to become a global bridge that connects both the global south to the global north, propelling India to the forefront of a new era where you have trade, culture, geopolitics all coming together. This report tells you the significance of Marseille and why it's so important in India's scheme of things when it comes to connecting India with the Middle East.
Marseille, a city where history, trade and ambition converge. The southern French port city has long been a gateway to Europe. But now, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it's become central to India's future. As the anchor for the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, or IMEEC, Marseille is poised to serve as a vital link between India's west coast and Europe via the Middle East. This corridor is not just a trade route. It's a lifeline for global connectivity, breaking barriers that have long stood in India's path. For years, Pakistan's veto over overland connectivity to the west has kept India at arm's length from much-needed trade routes. But with IMEEC, that obstacle is shattered. India can now access the heart of Europe through Marseille, a city strategically positioned on the Mediterranean and with a port that is the largest in France and the third largest in the Mediterranean. Marseille's significance deepens further when we consider its telecommunications infrastructure, connecting Europe to Asia, Africa and West Asia through undersea cables that carry 99% of the world's data. The IMEEC is not just about moving goods, it's about moving ideas, people and cultures. In that sense, the corridor becomes a bridge, linking the vibrant global south with the prosperous global north, with India standing at the helm, poised to lead the charge. In a world where China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, is reshaping global trade dynamics, the IMEEC represents a counterbalance, offering a model based on shared growth, respect and mutual benefit. It's a new path for a world weary of China's heavy-handed approach. And for India, it's a golden opportunity to solidify its role as the voice of the global south. As leaders like Modi and French President Macron continue to strengthen this vital partnership, the future of trade, culture and geopolitics looks poised for a dramatic shift. In Marseille, they are laying the groundwork for a transformative era.
Once a crossroads of culture, Marseille is now the linchpin of India's global ambitions. As the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor takes shape, it promises to shift the balance of power, one that puts India at the very center of it. And in the battle for this global influence, this historic city is now global zero. Wide-angle story on the show. India's Brahmos supersonic cruise missile has been making waves on the global stage. Well, it's gained interest from countries around the world. It was earlier Philippines, but there are now many more. How does this pave the way for India's Make in India ambitions when it comes to defense? And will this allow India to emerge as a top defense exporter? And how important would that be in the global security landscape? This report tells you.
In the world of cutting-edge weaponry, one name is commanding global attention: Brahmos. Developed by India's Defence Research and Development Organization, this supersonic cruise missile is a game changer, pushing India to the forefront of military innovation and reshaping global defence dynamics. With a blistering top speed of Mach 3 and a strike range of 290 kilometers, Brahmos is a force to be reckoned with. It's not just a missile, it's a symbol of India's growing military dominance. New Delhi's defense exports are surging, with Brahmos leading the charge. By 2028-29, exports are set to reach 50,000 crore rupees. With this missile playing a central role, the world is watching as India's military strength grows. The demand speaks for itself. A joint project with Russia, Brahmos has already proven its worth in India's military. But it's not just India, it's in high demand worldwide. Nations like Indonesia, Vietnam and the Philippines are eager to secure this powerhouse. The Philippines has already placed a multi-million-dollar order, and Indonesia is set to follow with a deal worth up to $450 million. This growing international trust highlights India's rising role as a global military leader. And India is far from done. The next-gen Brahmos NG is in development, sleeker, stealthier and even more powerful. With enhanced radar evasion and the ability to be deployed on platforms like Tejas and Sukhoi 30 MKI, Brahmos NG is poised to take India's defence exports to new heights. With its striking new capabilities, Brahmos NG will ensure India's position as a global military powerhouse. The strategy is clear. Make in India, make it world-class. With Brahmos at the heart of this ambition, India's defence future looks unstoppable.
Brahmos is in fact reshaping not just the future of global defense, it's also propelling India at the very forefront of being a major military power. Defense exports in India in the last 5 years have really shot up, and its cutting-edge technological exports led by weapon mechanism and weapon systems like Brahmos that could really ensure that India emerges as a large player in terms of indigenous defense manufacturing. And in fact, the missile reach expands, and as it expands, future innovation takes place. India's rise as the global defense leader may in fact be unstoppable.
NDTV एक मिसाल है जिसने देश के इतिहास को लिखने और रचने में अहम किरदार निभाया है। देश के हर कोने से हर जरूरी खबर आप तक लाने की जिम्मेदारी है। इतिहास के पन्नों में जिम्मेदारी की एक ऐसी मराठा मिसाल है छावा। शेर छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज का वो छावा जिसने मराठा साम्राज्य का सर हमेशा ऊंचा रखा। वीरता और शौर्य की ये कहानी छावा देखिए 14 फरवरी से थिएटर्स में।
For all the news and exclusives, please download NDTV app.
Big budget day. Big newsmakers on NDTV. Top ministers and opposition leaders.
ये by the people, of the people and for the people budget.
It is a fulfilling budget.
This is a development budget.
It's one of the finest budgets I've ever seen.
More than a bold move, it is a clever move.
NDTV, always the first choice of newsmaker. NDTV keeps you ahead.
The third edition of the India Energy Week came to a close in New Delhi. Join us as we bring you all the action that unfolded over 4 days. World leaders pledging energy security, cutting-edge solutions in renewables and hydrogen, and top voices in technology and AI. Witness over 120 countries come together to celebrate the Indian model of sustainable growth.
This week on India Ascends,
we decode the ins and outs of the historic PM Modi President Trump meet. Mumbai to Marseille, why IMEEC is poised to bring the global north and south together, and how Brahmos missile is pushing India to the forefront of military innovation and reshaping global defense dynamics.
all this and more only on India Ascends with me, Gauri Dwivedi, at these timings on the NDTV network.
Mahakumbh, the festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
Inside story on the show is also Bangladesh. Well, the descent of the country has almost been complete. It's been in chaos since 5th of August, when what started as a student revolution has really unfolded into a complete collapse of law and order and administrative machinery. But the latest is that now women have also been are being subjected to unspeakable atrocities. From sports to business ventures, even basic expression, women in Bangladesh are now under siege. This report tells you just how the government, led by Muhammad Yunus, is turning a blind eye to that.
Bangladesh, once celebrated for its moderate Muslim heritage, is now under threat as Islamist radicals rise to power under the interim Yunus government, putting women's rights in jeopardy. A wave of violence has engulfed the nation, with Islamist mobs targeting women's sport and public life. In late January, protests led by radical groups forced the cancellation of women's football matches in Joypurhat and Dinajpur, just the beginning of a disturbing trend to erase women from the public sphere. Despite winning regional championships, the national women's football team now faces collapse as families pull their daughters from the game in response to growing conservatism. Meanwhile, the Yunus government remains silent, leaving radicals unchecked. Women's rights activists, once hopeful, now accuse the administration of hypocrisy, allowing Islamist groups to expand their control. The attack on women's sports is just the start. Actresses like Pori Moni face harassment for simply opening businesses, and public events featuring women are being cancelled under the threat of violence. This month, in a shocking act of violence outside Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's house, a woman was assaulted for supporting the Awami League, a grim signal of Bangladesh's complete descent into radicalism.
Muhammad Yunus's government is interim. It is supposed to pave the way for elections. Until it does so, it is supposed to ensure that administrative machinery doesn't collapse, law and order machinery doesn't collapse. But that's exactly what is happening. It remains to be seen whether a country which was once led by powerful women leaders is now going to not even allow a limited but important space to women in Bangladesh. Well, it's now time to get you the top voice segment on the show. I spoke with Lobsang Sangye, who's been the former Prime Minister of the Tibetan government in exile. I spoke to him about what could be the China policy under President Trump and how could the new US regime impact India-China relations going forward. Listen in. Welcome to a very special conversation. With me here is the former Tibetan Prime Minister and who's now, of course, a professor at Harvard Law School, Mr. Lobsang Sangye, with whom I will discuss everything related to Trump's policy on China, Taiwan, Tibet, and of course, India as well. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to me.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
We are speaking on a day when Prime Minister Modi is meeting President Trump. Everything is set to be on the agenda, but the one thing I think that's going to be really important is Donald Trump's China policy. It will impact India, it will impact the world as well. Let me first start by asking you, what do you think about Donald Trump's position and policy on China, and how much do you think it will be different from his predecessors?
When Trump was President, the first time, we lobbied to pass a law called Tibetan Policy and Support Act of 2020, which he signed, based on which we got all the things that we needed, including funding, opening a consulate in Lhasa, on the issue of reincarnation, environmental issue of Tibet. So it's a law in America to support Tibet, which President Trump signed it. So second time, he has come back. Now he's, bound or obligated by the law he has signed. So that way, I think his support for Tibet will continue. As far as China is concerned, it looks intuitively, if you listen to him, he keeps saying China and tariff, and then it looks like that China policy will continue.
What about the dam building exercises that China has really stepped up on right now, that the Brahmaputra being the latest? How do you see that impacting? Because there are some experts who feel that the future could be, geopolitics could be around water, especially in this region.
That's a very serious issue. Recently, when there was a news that on Doklam, recently when there was a news about Galwan, when Indian and Chinese troops were pulling each other, there was some kind of a lull. Yeah. I was expecting some other, major news from Chinese side, and then the building of the dam, right, on Brahmaputra came about soon thereafter. So when they give you, they always take 2 steps forward, and 1 step back, and it's a concession. And when they give you something, they always take something from you. So it looks like that. They have already built 4 dams on Brahmaputra River. They are planning to have a dozen. And one, the largest one, bigger than dam over Yangtze River, right?
Yes.
Largest
the
dam.
3 gorges, yeah.
Yes. So with that, it's a major, threat. It should be a serious issue for India for many reasons. Brahmaputra is a lifeline for northeast of India and Bangladesh. Right? And once you have a dam, you control the flow of water. Yeah. So if farmers, don't get water, at the time when they are planting things, and then if they're delayed by even a few weeks, that could affect agriculture. And people downstream will affect the fishery, So it's a serious issue. And then during war, you can flood all the highways and railway lines and essentially cut off, all the sister states of Northeast from rest of, India.
Well, that is a wrap on this edition of India Sense. Thanks so much for watching this very special episode. And as we wrap things up, take a look at the best of Aero India, which concluded just this week.
Is the flow of the rivers, the direction of the stars, and the memory of the urn full of nectar. I'm here to tell you the story of Kumbh. Watch Mahakumbh Tales with me, Amish Tripathi, only on NDTV.
As India accelerates its growth towards self-reliance, India Inc. is leading the charge. From market dominance to manufacturing, from AI breakthroughs to disruptive innovations, India is setting the roadmap for a Viksit Bharat. Join us as business leaders, policymakers and ministers come together at the NDTV Profit Conclave 2025, the blueprint for Viksit Bharat, February 18th, 10 a.m. onwards. Tune in only on the NDTV network.
The
story about India-US partnership is actually very, very large. The entire gamut of this relationship is humongous.
A really fantastic job, a great leader.
पूरी दुनिया में डील शब्द का कॉपीराइट एक ही व्यक्ति का है और उस व्यक्ति का नाम है ट्रम्प.
We're going to make some wonderful trade deals for India and for the U.S.
भारत और अमेरिका की साझेदारी लोकतंत्र और लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों तथा व्यवस्थाओं को सशक्त बनाती है.
He's a much tougher negotiator than me, and he's a much better negotiator than me. There's not even a contest.
भारत की ऊर्जा सुरक्षा सुनिश्चित करने में हम ऑयल तथा गैस ट्रेड को बल देंगे.
We're friends and we're going to stay that way.
इंडो पैसिफिक में शांति और समृद्धि को बढ़ाने के लिए हम मिलकर काम करेंगे.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital, Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.